Mm-hmm. No, you're good. Go ahead.
The one thing I thought about last night's draft was, and it's really like, it's a cool thing because we're doing it right now. Like being able to accomplish something that big, that magnitude, the importance of it is, for the whole country, digitally and virtually. I think it was really it was just awesome, and I really I want to applaud all the TV stations and the NFL on getting it done. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. Really cool to see like all of the coverage, and there were multiple outlets doing it. I know Bleacher Report had their own thing, Barstool Sports had their own thing, and then you had ESPN and NFL Network kind of come together to do that. It was really cool, really well put together.
Oh yeah, I was impressed. They really had no hiccups or anything like that. So shout out to them.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Pick one.
On and country on, my friend.
We're gonna start with you.
So, as a Bengals fan, love the number one pick. Love the pick for Joe Burrow. From a fantasy outlook, look, I know it sucks. It's terrible. All right. The good thing is my hopes are always at the bottom, so they can only be improved. Only be improved because I just expect the Bengals to mess up, and they didn't with this pick. Love Joe Burrow. I don't think he's going to be a fantasy relevant quarterback this year. There's some upside just because he has shown the ability to run a little bit, and they have some decent weapons in Cincinnati, but I'm not going to go out of my way to draft him. If I do, it'd be a late round flyer, but
yeah,
I would not feel comfortable going into week one with him as my starting quarterback.
No, sir. I mean, AJ Green's still there for now that we know of, and Tyler Boyd's there. Joe Mixon's there. Still a good weapons. Joe Mixon still be able to grind it out with that offensive line. So I think Joe has the right pieces around him to do something, but fantasy-wise, I don't think there's any type of value there. So, again, it will be like a late round, 14th round, last pick type ordeal if you have the opportunity to get him. So I do love the pick. I do like that the Bengals didn't mess this up. It was kind of clear. We knew who they were going to pick, who they were supposed to pick. Let's just say that. So that's dope that they didn't mess that up. And Cody, you seem excited for it. So hopefully you guys do something.
Now, do you think, though, Cody, like, is this really the chance for John Ross to have somebody who's going to care about him? You know what I mean? Like, I look at this as, if you want to make a statement and you're the Bengals, you got the number one pick in the whole draft, the number one guy, right? The number one player in the country. You come right out and you just get your speedster down the sidelines and you hit that strike, bam, make a statement. I actually think he might be fantasy relevant come at least halfway second half of the season because of that. If you still have AJ Green on your team, if you still you have a John Ross there, you even got backup guys like Auden Tate, the tight ends, and Joe Mixon. By the way, at least I can tell you this as the daily fantasy guy. Joe Mixon was a beast last year, despite their record. I think there actually is a way that Burrow becomes a fantasy relevant quarterback, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if they come right out and say, let's see this young gunslinger play, and let's see what he could do with the weapons that we'd already lined up that previously were ineffective.
So I love him on a week-to-week basis. I don't know if I trust him as my number one quarterback, but I think this is great for John Ross. Burrow had the ability to throw the deep ball downfield. Jamar Chase was incredible last year. Justin Jefferson as well. They both they stretch the field, and I think John Ross has the ability to do that. And I think AJ Green as well on the outside. What concerns me a little bit is over the middle of the field, they did lose Tyler Eifert. And I know Joe Burrow kind of leaned on Moss later in the season in the college football playoff. Randy's kid, Thaddeus, was a tight end at LSU. I think I agree with you that he does have a chance to become fantasy relevant. I don't think I think with any rookie, you expect him to develop as the season goes on. And hopefully in Zach Taylor's offense, he has a chance to do that because they do have some weapons, in the black and orange.
Yeah, he definitely has the opportunity. I think it's more of a wait and see. Like I said, I wouldn't go, top rounds like, 9th, 8th round going for a Joe Burrow. I just would wait, late round, or he might even hit waivers, you know what I mean? And he blows up week 1 and 2. And then again, there's the opportunity. Everybody goes and scrambles to go get him on the waiver wire. But I definitely do like, he still has AJ Green. He still has the pieces around him. So I'm just going to pump the brakes and I'm going to hold off on him for now.
Mm-hmm. Hey, my last championship season, it was 2 seasons ago. My last round pick, the last guy there was Baker Mayfield, who at that time was the number 1 pick. So maybe Joe Burrow will be my 30th pick this time. And I get another championship out of it by picking him last and keeping him on my bench. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I have no problem with him being on my bench and then to step up a bye week, maybe. I have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So next offensive player selected, and I think so. Pick 2, Chase Young, great player, but he's not going to have any fantasy impact. Same with pick number 3, Jeff Okudah, incredible corner. Andrew Thomas was offensive tackle out of Georgia, selected to the Giants. Helps out a much needed area for that Giants offensive line. Yeah. I mean, I think it gives, a little bit of boost to Danny Dimes and Saquon, but nothing, I'm not changing how I view Saquon or Danny Dimes or any of those other Giants players just based off of this pick. But
exactly,
it should help.
It adds to the help that they need on the line, but it doesn't make anything fantasy relevant for any of the guys to jump off the paper, to jump up the draft board. So I do like they took the time and they addressed some needs early, and they got one of the top guys. So kudos to them for not messing up that pick.
Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely not a wasted pick at all. They needed help there. It was evident all throughout the season. I think that, using a pick there was also very smart. It probably kept the New York media at bay in regards to any sort of wild card pick that they could have taken there.
Absolutely.
Maybe a receiver, a flyer. I think that, with the retirement of Eli and Danny Dimes really coming into his own last year, that team is probably riding an entire city's hopes and dreams on there with no baseball and no basketball too. I just thought it was a really smart pick on their part.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
So can we talk about Tua or what? Talk about Tua or what?
The elephant in the room, man.
Let's get to it. Sean, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. Well, as a bleeding heart Patriots fan here, I for some reason had this outside hope of maybe he was going to fall the late round, right? But then all of a sudden I realized, well, the Dolphins have domination of this entire board, and he's got a very, very warm climate down there, very welcoming. They need all the help they can get. Tua is a phenomenal pick for them. I think he is a guy that they could build around. They can come out with the beard right from week 1, 2, 3. Little Fitz magic there, here and there, slip Tua in, and to get him acclimated to the offense. I really think that this was probably a bigger landmark, not just because of a controversy thing. I know he's got some injuries there, and not just because of a controversy thing. I think it was a bigger landmark pick for the Dolphins long term. And I thought it was very, very smart. As much as I'm kidding about the Patriots, obviously, I thought it was very smart by them. They needed something there to say to their fans, like, yeah, we might have tanked it a little bit, but this is the stuff we're going to do this year. Come on back to Joe Robb. Let's go. And having a player like Tua there, even if he's on the sidelines first 3 weeks, a pretty good mentor there in Fitzgerald to kind of give him that little guidance. I think it was a really smart pick.
Yeah, definitely. I think that they were definitely tanking for Tua since last year, even though they kind of shot those down over the summer that they weren't going to be doing that. But tanking for Tua does look like it was a real deal thing. And I'm not mad at it. I just think that it could be something great for him. It's a great situation for him with the receivers that he has and Preston Williams, and he has Devontae Parker. So the notes I put on it, I was like, so basically he's a great left-handed quarterback. He could be very explosive, but he does have the injury history. So I don't think this changes much for Devontae Parker or Preston Williams if he gets hurt, but I do think it gives them a boost if he stays on the field healthy. I don't want the Dolphins to kind of rush him in to where, he's trying to play with a chip on your shoulder. Because, you get the young rookie guys, they try to play harder than they really have to, and then they end up getting hurt. So I don't want him getting rushed into the NFL to basically, be a good 4 or 5 weeks out of him. And then, unfortunately, he goes down with injury. Because I kind of feel like that's what happened, if I had to think, with Dalvin Cook. When he went down his first year with the ACL, he was running really, really hard. Like
really well. really well.
It's kind of like, take it down a notch, man, and then boom, he gets hurt. So now
I
you
can't
see kind of like gingery with his running. So he's trying to stay healthy to get that big contract.
listen. I can't remember if it was a Monday night or a Sunday night football game, but it was like the first national exposure we had to Dalvin Cook, and he just galloped everywhere. And like this guy is gonna be the guy, and then bam, that injury happened, and ever since then he's been kind of labeled with that injury-prone thing. I don't want that to happen to a Tua. I think that Miami doesn't want that to happen either.
Well, and I think the Dolphins have enough self-awareness here to say, hey, look, Tua, you are a future. We know that. And we also don't have the roster to go out and try to compete in the AFC East right now. So I think Tua does sit the bench, at least for the first part of the year. And I think that's going to be best for his development. Let him learn the playbook. Let him get healthy. Let him build a rapport with those receivers. And you can tell that the Dolphins really put an emphasis on his health by taking an offensive lineman with their second pick in the first round. So that's something that I know they're going to put an emphasis on. I'm not going to be drafting Tua at all this year, just because I don't think he has if he is healthy, that Dolphins offense still isn't super explosive. So it's going to be hands off for me, at least at the beginning of the year. But dynasty or, any other formats where you can keep Tua long term, I think he's going to be a great pick.
Yeah, definitely. You get some good value there because, like I said, he's great when he's healthy. So hopefully he can stay healthy. Obviously the Dolphins did the med check, the physicals. When they met with him at the combine, so everything checked out fine. So I don't think they would have made this pick if there was any questions or anything lingering from that last injury he had. So I kind of think like they knew what they were doing. So this was a smart pick for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And adding the offensive lineman right afterwards is a clear message that they're looking to build on the back of Tua. I think. I don't think they brought that guy in to make sure Fitz could be their leading rusher again for the season.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is embarrassing.
So then they followed the Miami pick, the Los Angeles Chargers taking Justin Herbert. Oof. A lot of question marks around the guy. He would have been the number one pick had he entered the draft after his junior year. He did not, and he was the third quarterback taken off the board this year. I know the Chargers initially said that they were going with Tyrod Taylor going into the offseason.
We knew that.
Kind of mixed messages now that they drafted Herbert. I don't know if Herbert's going to start right away. I think he could learn some things underneath Tyrod. They ran quite a bit of zone read at Oregon, and I think Herbert could do some damage with his legs.
Definitely.
Where you guys thinking this year?
Well,
you think he has the option to make an impact, or
I think he'll have, because if we look at it, Tua has Devontae Parker, he has Preston Williams. Burrows has maybe AJ Green on the back end of his career with a very, I wouldn't say mediocre, but above average wide receiver in Tyler Boyd. If we're looking at this from a standpoint, who has the better chance to be the starter, to have the most potential at their weapons, I would have to say it's Herbert. He has Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler. There's no other combination.
Hunter Henry too.
Hunter Henry as well.
Hunter Henry too.
Yeah. So he has the better weapons than all these other quarterbacks off the board. So I think he's set up for success, but I do not think he'll get the start immediately. Being that the Chargers had said already, we're rocking with Tyrod. We don't need a veteran. We don't need Cam Newton. We don't need Winston. So it's kind of like they're probably going to have him play, I would say probably into like week 4 or 5 if things go south with Tyrod, because it's a new stadium, new jerseys. LA wants to win, and it's a lot of things to do in LA, so they want to keep their small fan base that they have. So it's kind of like they're going to have to make some adjustments early if things are going south with Tyrod, because I don't feel comfortable with Tyrod going into week 1, and I'm a Rams fan. I could be a fan of football. I just would not look at that team like Tyrod Taylor would be our week 1 starter. No. You have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and it's like you have all these weapons around. You need to make that splash in LA and get the kid on the field.
I'm just going to say this out loud, and this is all due respect to Double T there, but does anybody ever want to hear the words, our week 1 starters, Tyrod Taylor? I mean, I'm throwing that out, okay? Maybe it's controversial. It's just me saying it. Now, look, I think that the thing is they walked away from a franchise guy that they had in Phillip Rivers. They let him go. The fan base loved Phillip Rivers despite constantly disappointing them. It was like like a likable loser type thing, right?
Yeah.
But now they have a kid that, he could have gone number one had he come out earlier. They got him now. He's got a little bit more seasoning there on the steak, a little bit more sizzle. And maybe Tyrod Taylor starts as the number one quarterback, but I don't see them not having a change there by week 2 or 3. I think that the Chargers drafted this guy to be the player that they're going to lead their team with come the end of the season.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. And Justin Herbert is a perfectly capable quarterback to the point that I don't think, regardless of who's starting there, it's going to have any impact on how I view Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler. I think regardless, they're still going to establish the run, which today's NFL isn't necessarily the thing that you want to do, but I think they are going to lean on the run a little bit with these quarterbacks. And they'll sling it a little bit. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen this before with Tyrod being named the starter, and then what do you know? Baker Mayfield's on the field taking over for the rest of the season.
Right.
So this may happen again. Like we've seen, like what I remember from Tyrod on the Browns, he was very jittery. There was times where he was supposed to run, he didn't run, where he ran, where he wasn't supposed to run. It's like, I think we're kind of over Tyrod. Tyrod had Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods in Buffalo, and nothing really came out of that. Yes, they made the playoffs once, with that, but it was barely. It was because of, I think it was the Ravens loss or some shit like that, where they barely got in. So
Ravens lost to the Bengals.
So it's not like Tyrod led them to victory, led them to the playoffs to where they had an actual chance at bringing home the gold. I don't think that was set up for that to happen. So I think, like I said, or what Sean said, Herbert's going to eventually get on the field, probably be the back end of the season. It might be week 2. We don't know. You know what I mean? So if this kid balls out, then, fantasy-wise, I don't think I could still, pull the trigger on him to have him on my roster.
Yep. So 7th overall pick, Carolina went with Derek Brown. Outstanding defensive tackle, but, not an impact there. That defense isn't a draftable one anyway. Arizona drafted Isaiah Simmons. I thought they might address the offensive line there because that's something that was an issue last year. But best player on the board by far, I think. And they took Isaiah Simmons. Jacksonville drafted CJ Henderson, their obvious heir apparent to Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if you can replace a guy like Ramsey, but they're going to try. Cleveland took Jedrick Willis. That is a great pick. In my mind.
Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt, but one thing on the Jacksonville, pick, there, with all the talk that came out earlier this week about Leonard Fournette possibly being moved from Jacksonville, I obviously know that Jalen Ramsey was a huge part of that defense and they needed to replace him. But I did, in the back of my head, think it was a little bit telling that they didn't go after a high-end running back right there and sending a message that Leonard Fournette was on his way out. And in fact, I think that, today, like tonight, it's going to be very telling, and I think there's going to be a lot of those moves that we've heard rumors of different players move around, and what teams are doing draft-wise is going to show that hand. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt your flow. I just wanted to kind of put that in there.
Yeah, good point, though. Definitely.
I totally agree. And they also didn't draft a running back with that second pick in the first round, too, and they had a chance. So I agree. So Cleveland went with Jedrick Wills. Helps out an offensive line unit that has now been bolstered by the addition of Austin Hooper at tight end. And they also signed Jack Conklin from Tennessee. I think that offensive line is going to be much improved. I think this is more of a good sign for Baker, the rest of that offense, and Chubb. I think they're really going to go out and try to score some points this year. So hopefully we can see it.
Dude, Baker got killed last year.
Yeah,
I mean, got killed. And if they hadn't addressed that need at O-line right there, I think that the whole organization might have been lynched.
Yep.
Anyway, just me.
So the next pick, next offensive tackle off the board was Mekhi Becton. New York Jets. A lot of people had the them taking a wide receiver there.
I did too.
Off the board.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought so too. I sent it to you. I sent you a message about that.
Yeah, you did.
Laquan. Yeah, I was like, I think this is the first wide receiver coming off, and I stood corrected.
Yeah, that was a little weird for me for them not to take a wide receiver. You know what I mean? But I think they're basically putting their money on Perriman, and I can't really see them. I don't know. The Jets are just a bad team right now. I can't see them doing anything, no matter if they did take a CeeDee Lamb or a Ruggs or anybody like that. I don't really see them doing much. Like they have, Bell back there, and it's like shit the bed. So fantasy wise, like I'm not touching any Jets players this year. I don't care who they get in there, but as long as Adam Gates is the head coach, I'm good, bro.
Yep. I think this does give Sam Darnold some help. They desperately needed it on that offensive line. They need some weapons. Hopefully they can grab one in the second round with their early pick, but we'll see.
What we got next?
So in the most Las Vegas Raiders pick ever, they drafted the guy with the fastest 40 time, which seems to be a theme. Yep. But they picked Henry Ruggs, first wide receiver taken off the board. What are your guys' thoughts on this spot?
This was interesting, honestly. Well, I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was an interesting pick, but I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to mirror that Kansas City offense with Tyreek Hill 2.0. And it's kind of like, yeah, you could do that, but you don't have a Patrick Mahomes. You have Mariota and Derek Carr. It's not going to happen.
The first thing is, look, this guy is the fastest guy, right, in the world, but can Derek Carr hit that? Can Derek Carr function with that player?
Yeah.
Derek Carr's a touch quarterback. Maybe I missed the film of Derek Carr throwing 100-yard pass bombs downfield. The thing to me though, going back to the Jets pick, this is who I had for the Jets because he's the new Robbie Anderson down there, right? Like that fast guy. That's what that was to me where not that I want anybody to go play for the Jets. I'd feel awful if he did, but that was who I thought was going Jets. The the Las Vegas Raiders are opening a new stadium. They need explosive playmakers. They need big-time plays, and they need to make stars. That's what they need to do. They had Darren, the baller Waller there last year, right? And they got Hunter Renfrow. And they got a kid named Josh Jacobs, who legitimately I think is one of the best runners in the NFL, right? They needed that guy to go out and get those big plays, the big touchdowns, the simple scores. They're down 7. They have 1 minute left on the clock. They need a bomb. This is the guy, right? And I thought it was a great pick. I just felt like I felt like this was the Jets' choice to make.
Yeah, definitely.
And they handed this to John Gruden.
Definitely. Yeah. From a fantasy perspective, I think Henry Ruggs, and we'll talk about the other receivers here in a second, but I think Henry Ruggs in my mind is has the highest fantasy ceiling. He could take over the number 1 role in that offense. They have Tyrell Williams, who has always been a great support wide receiver, but has never really excelled as the number 1. And I think Henry Ruggs the thing about Ruggs is he has the ability to score from anywhere on the field. Very Deshaun Jackson, Tyreek Hill-esque. Hopefully, if they can get the ball in his hands, if they get him 7-8 touches, I could see them doing some wide receiver reverse stuff with him. Alabama did that briefly. Get the guy the ball because he is a playmaker and he's going to.
This can go 2 ways. This is how I look at it with this pick. Also, like we can get Tavon Austin, John Ross out of him. We know that's not great. Or we can get, like you said, Deshaun Jackson or Tyreek Hill. There's 2 sides of this coin of where he can be used, where he can actually be successful fantasy-wise and then in real life-wise. So, again, if he goes to Tavon Austin route, it didn't work out too well. If he goes to Deshaun Jackson, Tyreek Hill, then of course. But, again, these are all coming down to the ultimate problem, and it's Derek Carr. Derek Carr had 47 attempts of anything past 20 yards out. That is terrible. That is terrible. Ranked 25th. So I'm not seeing this like him throwing the ball 7 times down the field to Ruggs on the deep pass. I don't see it happening. So for him to only average 2.5 of the times that he throws 20 yards plus, come on now, you can't go out and get a guy like that and keep this same regimen, the same formula with Derek Carr. So they need to figure out how they're going to use him, when they're going to use him, and not have him only getting 3 to 4 touches a game. He needs to be up there with the 7 to 8. He needs to be used as if he's the wide receiver 1. And I don't care who else is in that field.
No, and I agree. And I think that when you have a talent like that, and in theory, when you have a coach like John Gruden, he understands that. And he understands that this is a special player that is going to be my difference maker on the field. And I think that when you look at like a Deshaun Jackson or a Tyreek Hill, you also have to look at who's throwing the ball to them and how they're being deployed. And I think that, you're right. Ruggs needs to be a very special player on that field for that team, and they need to make him shine and utilize his abilities as best as possible, but also don't try and all of a sudden expose your quarterbacks as being lesser than what they need to be.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, so the next pick was Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle out of Iowa, really excelled at the combine, went to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay traded up to get him. I think it fills a hole in that offense. That offense obviously has a lot of weapons, Tom Brady at the helm. And if you're going to have a 42-year-old quarterback, you're going to need to protect him. I think that's a great pick there by Tampa Bay.
For sure.
Are you talking about the new Patriots? The new Tampa Bay Patriots?
The 2.0?
Is that what you mean?
As a Pats fan, how you feel with Tom Brady and Gronk?
Are you seriously thinking that it's a crazy thought that they need an offensive lineman who's as big as a walking condominium blocking for 42-year-old Tom Brady and coming off retirement Rob Gronkowski?
Look,
I was not surprised by this pick at all, first of all. And second of all, I think that I am slowly becoming a fan, not just of the weather, but also the Buccaneers. I mean, they were awesome for DraftKings last year. They were awesome for DFS. They were the best team in the world every week. Bam, 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 I got it. Boom, boom, boom. But now you got Brady down there. You got Gronk down there. They are quickly becoming my second favorite team.
Yeah, and I think they are going to be very fun to watch this season. Very fun.
Yeah, lock it in. I can't wait to see them play week 1, how it looks. It's going to be weird seeing Gronk and Brady on different teams.
Yeah. That's an understatement.
So San Fran went with pick 14. So they traded back from 13. They originally got the pick from the Colts, trading DeForest Buckner. Ended up drafting a defensive lineman, Javon Kinlaw. A great pick. Not going to be a real fantasy impact unless you draft the 49ers defense, but they were good without Kinlaw. So just another addition there. So the next wide receiver taken, an absolute weapon out of the University of Alabama, is Jerry Jeudy going to Denver.
Let's go.
LQ, you seem excited. What are your thoughts?
That was a great.
Season. It's Drew Lock's season. The only person I see taking a hit right now is Noah Fant. And I think he doesn't take like a major hit, but he does take a hit because now Sutton has that help at wide receiver 2 that they desperately needed. They needed somebody that could take the attention off of Sutton. Sutton was getting like overwhelmed with coverage and he wasn't getting like anything off the ground. Like it just wasn't happening. And like now with this chemistry that he needs to get with Drew Lock, it's kind of like I cannot wait until the season starts so we could really see this offense move forward.
Yeah, you want to get your young quarterback feeling confident about your playbook, you go out and you get the best route runner in the entire draft class that's going to be able to execute time and time again for you. And I thought it was an excellent, excellent pick. And I think that team is a total sleeper with Melvin Gordon there now. I think that is a different looking Denver Broncos is really going to be a contender.
Yep. You could tell they went out of their way to give their young quarterback some weapons this offseason, getting him a workhorse running back in Melvin Gordon, now drafting Jerry Jeudy. Should be a fun team to watch.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Rum Boys Network. My dude was good, Robbie.
Hey.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm definitely excited for Denver, bro. Denver is definitely a lock it up. I cannot wait to see Jeudy in that jersey. I can't wait to see Sutton killing it for my fantasy team. I'm definitely targeting him when it comes down to draft day.
And speaking of jerseys, next up.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay. What we got?
Oh, I just want a quick question there. You may mention the draft. Okay. Okay, where does Cortland Sutton sit right now in your mind from a draft perspective? Is he still in your for me, going into this season, he was somewhere around, 50, 40, something like that. But with a Jerry Jeudy there now and a Melvin Gordon there now too, quite frankly, has Cortland Sutton's stock risen in reference to draft positions for redraft leagues?
I think it helps a bit. I don't think he jumps around or anything like that, but he does move up in the round with itself. So I did a video on him. So I kind of feel like I wouldn't feel comfortable with him as my wide receiver 1. So if I go running back, Sutton as my wide receiver 1, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. You know what I mean? So I feel like if I'm going to target him, I have to get that stud wide receiver in the first or second round. So he does play a supporting role as wide receiver 2. So with Jeudy there, it just helps him flourish even more at that wide receiver 2 position. So it definitely, you have to alter your draft strategy going to get Sutton. Because again, I can't have him as my wide receiver 1 week to week, dependent on, a very young quarterback and a new system and all that other stuff. So it's kind of like you got to address him to the point where it fits for your roster.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
I know we're talking football, but you just hit that one out of the park, because why I said that was because of that Cortland Sutton article you wrote and you put on Instagram and that little video you did there. And anybody who's watching right now, if you're not following Real Deal Fantasy on Instagram or Laquan on Instagram, you got to go and follow it, because there is new content coming out all the time. And that is a great example. That Cortland Sutton little clip and vid got me psyched about going into this draft and seeing what the Broncos were going to do. So word to that.
Yes, sir.
Big facts only.
So next we had ATL taking AJ Terrell. Atlanta needed a corner. They got a corner. I don't know how I feel about the pick. I think AJ Terrell might have been a little bit of a reach here, but we'll see. So the next fantasy relevant pick, Dallas at 17, taking the beating heart out of Eagles fans and just puncturing it with a knife. They draft CeeDee Lamb, an absolute weapon. I'm surprised he fell this far because he was incredible at Oklahoma. Where do you guys think he impacts this offense?
I'm too excited. Sean, you go first.
You hit the nail on the head. They had the clip in Jerry Jones's yacht, him sitting there scheming and scheming. He saw the board. He saw the Eagles were 2 picks away from him, and this guy's sitting there, and he just knew it. And I thought that strategically in that moment, it was a great example of what Jerry Jones brings to that Dallas Cowboys organization. Now, in reference to where CeeDee Lamb sits on that team, very interesting. You have Amari Cooper there. Obviously, you have Michael Gallup, who came on very strong last year. CeeDee Lamb is going to be a very, very interesting addition there. I am afraid to play the Cowboys next year, because my Patriots, my loving, beloved Patriots, are not in a position to compete with a 3-headed monster like that. I can tell you that.
Oof, that's gonna be crazy to see. Now, I do want to say this: Gallup does take a hit, unfortunately. Gallup takes a hit, but Gallup is still going to be on the outside. CeeDee Lamb's going to play the inside. So I don't know if you guys saw last night. They had CeeDee in the slot, had him outside. He was productive in both. He had basically a 70-30, split between him and the slot, 30% in the slot. So he is still productive there. 7 touchdowns in the slot, 7 touchdowns outside. So it doesn't really matter. So you got Cooper on the outside, you got Gallup on the outside, CeeDee in the slot. That works out well. It just works like to the point where they had their 3-headed monster now, where that offense is flowing. And then we have to say they got Zeke as well. Oh my God. They're going to be killing it next year. And they already had one of the top offenses going into this next season. So it's like with Dak there, he has a slight distraction with the contract issues, and all that stuff. And unfortunately, his brother did pass away as well. So, send my condolences out for that, definitely. And it's like, hopefully Dak is there for training camp. He's there week 1, and he's focused and he's ready to win ready to take them to the playoffs, ready to take them to the Super Bowl, hopefully. So I definitely think like with them taking this pick was a slap, punch, kick in the nuts to the Eagles. Straight steal, swiper, no swiping, take CeeDee Lamb because he is there type ordeal. Because honestly, they really didn't need him. He didn't really need to take CD there. He didn't need to. He didn't even really need to search for, a wide receiver. And like my question really was, if you had this plan, like if this was the plan to go get a wide receiver, a top prospect, especially like a guy like CeeDee Lamb, why pay Cooper all that money? You know what I mean? So that's the question there as well. It's kind of like, why did you pay Cooper all that money if you were going to go for a top prospect? And then there's the other side of it to where it's like, damn, maybe they didn't think CD would fall that low. Maybe
I think it's actually a little bit of a combination.
I think that's definitely it.
So CD, I don't think CD was going to fall that far. And then when he did, I think Dallas looked at the board and said, look, we're going to take the best player available. Good luck stopping our offense. Pull a little Chiefs action there with 3 elite wide receivers. I think it does hurt Cooper and Gallup just a little bit, but again, that offense is going to be great all year. I think Dak Prescott has the potential to be a top 3 quarterback.
Oh, for sure. Definitely now.
So I'll stand on my
question here. Without question.
He has led the league in quarterback rushing touchdowns since he's entered the league, and he started on the bench. Prescott is going to I think Prescott's going to have a great year. And then with Cooper's contract, something to note is after 2 years, there is no guaranteed money in that contract. So when it does come time to extend CeeDee Lamb going into his 3rd year, they might be able to trade Cooper or let him go for something. Just something to take a little bit of a note of there.
Definitely.
I hate to argue against the all-time great Michael Irvin, but he made this comment last night that I thought was just like so diminishing to what CeeDee Lamb was in college and what he could bring to the table. He's like, this is the guy that's replacing the Randall Cobb role. The Randall Cobb role in that offense. Are you kidding me? CeeDee Lamb is going to blaze his own trail.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Talking about 2 years from now, CeeDee Lamb is going to be Lamb and Prescott as a huge team.
Yep, for sure. All right, so we went next pick. Looks like the comments are saying they should have gone corner and safety. I agree. Xavier McKinney is still on the board going into day 2. He's an elite safety out of Alabama. I'm surprised he hasn't gone yet. The next pick was Austin Jackson. We kind of talked about this briefly when we discussed Tua, but Miami getting an offensive line help. They needed it. I mean, they needed it.
Yep.
Vegas went with a corner, and a lot of people saying that was a reach. Damon Arnett, who knows? Jacksonville went Kayvon Chason. Sean, like you said earlier, a little surprising they didn't go running back here with the news of Leonard Fournette. So hopefully that, indicates that he's going to be back with the team next year. Yeah. And then Philadelphia going Jalen Reagor at wide receiver.
Oh, my God. I'm going to start this off. This was a panic pick. They panicked to get this guy. He was not the plan.
Definitely.
To be the guy to get there. Because, again, he's a speedster. He's a Deshaun Jackson-like. So it's like you just signed Deshaun Jackson for 3 years. So it's kind of like, why get the same type of player? And a lot of Eagles fans are telling me they're going to play them both. I don't know. Stop. You cannot play them both. They are the same exact type of wide receiver. And with Justin Jefferson sitting there waiting for them, that's the guy they should have went and got and just let the Vikings take a Reagor. Or Reagor would have fell later. We don't even know how that would have went, but that was definitely a panic pick. That was a pick just to hush the main media, to hush the fans of everybody making the ongoing joke. They need wide receivers. So, they take a wide receiver in the first round. That kind of hushes the crowd a little bit, satisfy the Eagles fans, coddle them a little bit like, oh, God, whatever. But I don't think this was a great pick.
Listen, we started talking about this pick. I got so excited here waiting to talk. My actual Apple Watch just came up and asked me, are you biking? Okay, that's how much I saw this as being a freaky pick. They saw Jerry Jones. He's on his yacht. He's literally on his yacht with a smile on his face. I'm gonna F you guys up, and he did. And that is 100. I couldn't describe it any better. A panic pick. All due respect to Reagor. All due respect to the player. Right? He would have gone. He probably would have gone late second, third. This was a push the button. We got to get something. We got to get these fans talking about our team Let's get a skill position player who we got. This is what's going to be. 100% a panic pick, and I hate putting that on a player going to a new team, but it just smelled of it.
Yeah, and
Calm down.
What blows my mind is immediately following the Rigor pick, Justin Jefferson selected to Minnesota. Jefferson had 111 catches last year at LSU.
Yeah,
proven pass catching asset. And the issue that Jalen Rigor has had, and the one, down tick as far as comments go about him, was his drops. And guess what Eagles receivers did all year last year? Nelson Aguilar has had so many issues with drops. It's been something that franchise just cannot get over.
Do you remember the game where they had no offensive weapons? The only guy they had run out there was Nelson Aguilar, and he dropped everything.
Yes.
It was bad. I mean, it got to the point they called up a practice squad guy and Greg Ward Jr., a former running back. I think he went to Houston. So, man, he could have some fantasy value, but wait and see. I'm not drafting him. I'm staying away.
Hands off. It's hands off for me. I'm not.
There's no way this wasn't a panic pick. Just the idea that the very next pick was Justin, right? Like Jefferson. Like,
the Vikings.
There's no way it wasn't a panic pick. And by the way, the Vikings got a guy that I think at some point or another we're just going to refer to as Sir. I mean, that's how good.
Sir, I like it.
Sir, for whatever, I mean, that's anyway. I'm sorry. I got to calm down so somebody else talk.
Man, Justin Jefferson, being a fan
of, like, literally, my watch is telling me I'm going to have a heart.
Watching Joe Burrow last year, knowing that he was going to go to the Bengals, I watched enough LSU to know that Justin Jefferson is a talent. He is going to fit in right in that role that Stephon Diggs left. He's an absolute burner, can stretch the field, but he still works those underneath routes very well. I think he's going to have some great fantasy potential. I think between him and Henry Ruggs, they're going to be the first rookie wide receivers drafted in a lot of fantasy drafts this year. I mean, if he takes over that Diggs role, he could finish as a top 20, 25 receiver.
Yes, that's a fact. And guys like that, you'll get in the 10th or 11th round. So it's a full send on Jefferson as well. So I definitely like that the Vikings didn't, hesitate to go get him. Because, again, he fell right into their lap. He was the last 90 rated, wide receiver in the draft. So it's like, why not take him? Yeah, thank you, Eagles. You fucked up the draft again.
Yeah, and by the way, when you're talking about going into your own fantasy draft, and this is to anybody watching or whatever, I really want to point something out here, because there was a big name. If you go back last year, there was a big name player, a big time player, a stud that was drafted very late in DK Metcalf. And what happened with DK Metcalf? DK Metcalf came on and became a legitimate number 2 and, dare I say, the number 1 target for Russell Wilson as the season went down the stretch. Now you have a guy like Justin Jefferson. Metcalf went in the second round, but this is the late first rounder that I think people are going to look at and go, you know what? There is a reason for me to draft a rookie in my draft in maybe late first round, second round, because he's that A, talented, and B, he's going to an offense with great weapons around him. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and of course Kirk Cousins. He's also going to an offense that is going to throw, and they're going to be more balanced this year. He's going to have more opportunity. I think that if you're going to look at any rookie in this draft that's going to be a high round draft pick in fantasy draft day, I think Justin Jefferson is going to probably be that guy.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. For sure. Now let's jump to Jordan Love. Let's just jump right into it.
All right, 20. So after Justin Jefferson, we had Kenneth Murray at 23 going to LA. Cesar Ruiz going to 24. We'll skip the Brandon.
I gotta pause on Cesar Ruiz. I'm sorry.
All right,
I know. Listen, I'm on a rolling chair, so I gotta pause on him. And I'll tell you why I'm gonna pause on him. I'm gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this. Number one, emotional story. Right. This guy's got a huge story. Just awesome. He's overcome. Everything's overcome. So I'm about to say is no disrespect to him and his ability to play. And by the way, the man is a giant. Okay. And they have little tiny Drew Brees who's getting older. They need to protect. But was anybody else shocked they didn't take a wide receiver here? And here's my thought. I know they have Michael Thomas. He's the greatest in the world. We get it. What else they got?
So they
Emmanuel Sanders.
They got Ted
Emmanuel Sanders.
Well, I mean, okay, fine. I am just saying that is anybody looking at the Saints and saying there's going to be anything different if they play this season than it's a Michael Thomas show? And would and Dallas Cowboys pick, stealing that from the Eagles, did that ripple effect? All I'm trying to say is, did that ripple effect go further enough that the Saints used their pick on a center who probably, all due respect to his play, his ability, probably they could have gotten in a later round?
I think with that
because
pick,
by the way,
future,
could you have seen Justin Jefferson as a Saint?
Oof, that would have been beautiful.
I could.
That would have been beautiful, but I don't know. I think them taking a center they want to protect the last bit of Brees that they got and then protect the next guy and Tyson Hill maybe or whoever they bring in to have, some type of protection.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised they didn't go with a weapon there. But if you look at the Sean Payton and that same offense over the last decade or so, they've never really had a second wide receiver that's really been an incredible talent. When Drew Brees had Marquise Colston, there was never really a second guy. They had Teddy Ginn Jr. for a while, but he was good, but never great. I think Emmanuel Sanders might be the best second receiver that Drew Brees has had.
Definitely.
But so I am surprised that they didn't go with a wide receiver there just because of how many weapons are in this draft. This is one of the deepest wide receiver drafts we've ever seen. But I understand them not going there just because that's not what Sean Payton has done. And he's been there for, forever. So
and we all know the wide receiver too is Alvin Kamara, right? Right?
We all know that. We all know that.
81 catches. We know that. Look it up. 81. 3 years in a row. Alvin Kamara is a god.
Hey.
So we gonna hit Brandon Ayuk.
Let's talk the big one.
Okay, let's go Jordan Love. All right, 26. Green Bay trades up to get Jordan Love. In an interview, Aaron Rodgers did an interview the day of the draft or the day before the draft with Pat McAfee show, and he said it's been like 15 years since the Green Bay Packers have selected a skill position in the first round. He's like, yeah, it would be kind of nice if they did that. Well, they did. Just not the right skill position.
Yeah, just the wrong position. So here's my take on the pick. It didn't make sense. It's just a big slap in the face to Aaron Rodgers. The team did not get better with this pick at all. Offensively, defensively, they did not get better at all. And I think they should be in a necessary win now motion. They should have grabbed a top guy. They should have grabbed the top prospect for a wide receiver, or I wouldn't say running back. Aaron Jones, I'm good on, but they should have grabbed somebody that is actually going to make an impact and that actually helps Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers babysitting for the next 2-3 years does not help. So it's kind of like an ordeal how he went into the situation with Brett Favre there. This kid's going to sit for like 3 to 4 years. And if I think Rumboys hit the nail on the head that I think Aaron Rodgers may be on the move somewhere else in the next year or two.
I mean, it's tough. just looking at the.
How do you see these comments, by the way? I'm not getting any of these.
They're on the side of YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in my.
Don't you think though the thing that they traded up to get him, they traded up for this pick.
Yeah, it was.
That to me is a very significant way of saying to Aaron Rodgers, "Hey, bro, you trade up to get a quarterback when you already have a legitimate Hall of Famer starting for you." That to me is very telling on the Packers, what they view as their future.
Yep, and I get it. As a Bengals fan, I don't know what it's like to have, perennial winning seasons. Like, I just am totally unaware of how that must feel. But as a Packers fan, I don't know how you justify watching your Hall of Fame tight end or Hall of Fame quarterback just sit there and throw to guys who have been either practice squad or late round picks. It's just tough. It's tough. And I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I didn't understand them trading up to do that. But, they got a young coach in Floro, so maybe he's looking to the future when Aaron Rodgers is possibly, gone in the next 3 to 4 years or less. So maybe, they're looking for the future, somebody that can get the gems from Aaron Rodgers right now. But I don't necessarily think Aaron Rodgers is going to, coach him up as if Brett Favre, as him had a very bad relationship. I think that's well documented. They're friends now, but, Brett Favre wasn't a fan of them bringing in Aaron Rodgers at all.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the same
That
situation.
was the exact opposite of it. That was the exact opposite of an easy transition.
Yeah,
100.
So the exact opposite.
Thing.
All right, so
I just think that to me, when you have a team that had a nice season last year, when they trade up and in a manner that they traded up too, I want to point this out. It was like almost they had their own little panic button.
Yeah.
It happened out of nowhere. I thought it was 100% because they saw wide receivers dropping and they needed to grab one. That was just my thought.
Yeah.
But I just think that is a way more significant move that's probably going to be studied and dissected in the weeks to come. I want to point out Real Deal Fantasy has it first, so come to us first. But I think it is going to be something that is going to be dissected for a long time, because that to me is a lasting thing a memory that people are going to have coming out of this draft, including Packers Nation.
Well, I mean, maybe 10 years from now, we'll look back at it like, yeah, they made a good pick there. They grabbed their guy. But, we're thinking for now, it's definitely a disrespect slap to Aaron Rodgers. Because, again, they did not get better whatsoever with this pick.
Yeah, and the thing is they were an NFC Championship team last year. They went to the NFC Championship. They allowed over 200 yards rushing in an NFC Championship game. And then rather than getting a linebacker who Jordan Brooks went the very next pick, Patrick Queen went the following pick to Baltimore. Could have gotten 2 great defensive players. Instead, they went quarterback. They lost Brian Bulaga. I believe he went to LA in free agency. Could have gotten an offensive lineman here. Went quarterback. I don't know. I'm shaking my head at that one.
Yeah,
a little bit. It's definitely
help their team to get better.
So, jumping back up one pick, San Francisco traded back up into the first round to select Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State. I don't know if you guys have watched any tape on this kid. I have not watched a ton, but his physical build is absolutely ridiculous. He's only 6 foot tall, but he has an 80-inch wingspan. And to put that into perspective, 6'5" Calvin Johnson had an 81-inch wingspan.
Ooh.
So
yeah, they brought that up in the draft coverage. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's like Spider-Man running down the field for you. Like,
I really, really like this pick.
Unbelievable.
I think San Francisco is going to use him very well. I think Kyle Shanahan is going to use him very similarly to how they did use Emmanuel Sanders last year. But the biggest thing with Brandon Ayuk is he dominated in the screen game at Arizona State. So he's a guy where you get the ball in his hands and you let him make plays, very similar to Deebo Samuel, and kind of what that 49ers team does offensively. They get the ball into their playmakers' hands and let them make plays. And I think Brandon Ayuk is going to be no exception. I think he is going to make some plays. I don't know how impactful he will be fantasy-wise, just because that 49ers offense is so well schemed that they can give the ball to anybody in any given week. So we'll see if he does get, enough touches to be fantasy relevant, but he's definitely worth taking a flyer on in my mind.
Yeah, he's one of the flyers that you take in the later rounds, again, like maybe the 11th, 12th round. It's crazy in San Fran because they have tons of talent at wide receiver, tons of talent at running back. It's just a matter of who's going to be, the number one target. Well, I should say number 2 target behind Kittle that week. And the issue with me is that I hate having that headache of trying to figure out when this guy's going to be able to get, 5 to 7 targets a game. And it's like this guy can become non-existent. Like, look at Dante Pettis, how he finished the 2018 year. We had high hopes for him, being that he was getting those targets behind Kittle, being able to stretch the field and be able to be a reliable receiver. He was crisp routes. Like, he's such a great route runner. It's just that injury bumped him back, and then he became non-existent once he was healthy. So I kind of feel like it's kind of hard to figure out who's going to be good week to week when it comes to San Francisco's 40 wide receivers. So other than Kittle, it's like, what do we do? And I don't like having that question come Sunday.
I think that the one thing that Ayuk is going to be able to do for that team is take a lot of coverage off Deebo Samuel. I think right away. I think that when you have guys that are running similar routes, and you have a stud that emerged last year and a developing guy here who is, like we're talking about, gigantic wingspan, big body. I just think that for, like you just said, what the 49ers are doing right now, he just fits in like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And I just can't wait for that first Monday Night Football highlight of some ridiculous grab over a cornerback's head that came out of nowhere because these fingertips were an inch longer than this dude's body. That's what I saw. That's what I heard about, man. So,
yep. All right. So the next 2 picks after Green Bay, we kind of discussed. Seattle went linebacker Jordan Brooks. Baltimore went linebacker and Patrick Queen. Both of those teams already have great offenses, so not a surprise there. Tennessee went Isaiah Wilson to replace Jack Conklin at right tackle. A mammoth of a human being, 6'6", 350
Can I
pounds.
pause on Tennessee real quick?
Woo. Give it to me, Sean.
Yeah. Can I pause on Tennessee real quick too? I just want to I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if I can share screens on here, but I literally can't wait to see Mike Vrabel's draft room today. Who's this guy over here? Who's this guy? Right? Like, who's that?
The guy dressed as Frozone.
They cut out the part of the guy taking a shit in the bathroom also.
I know. I saw that too. I was like, they got no fucks given there. None.
Hey, that's great self-awareness.
Oh my God.
Great self-awareness.
Thing in the world.
I mean, if you want to get views and clicks, man, Vrabel knows how to do it. That was a great play by him.
If the NFL was smart, they would make it so you could watch it online and you could like click into different people's webcams, like you can do like the national parks, and you can just check in on Vrabel every once in a while. What's going on in there?
Every so often, you check there. Andy Reid eating a slab of ribs.
Right.
He's on his third slab midway through the second round.
Who's choking on beef jerky? Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
So after Isaiah Wilson, Miami went with a corner, Noah. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. Jesus Christ.
I'm calling him Noah I.
It's a lot of syllables.
Yes, it is. Minnesota also went with Jeff Gladney, another defensive presence. They had 2 of their corners leave in free agency this year, signed by the Bengals. So we'll see. I think they needed some help at corner, and they got it there. And with the last pick of the draft, Kansas City, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back out of LSU. What are your guys' thoughts here?
I was shocked that this pick happened. I was not that they took a running back, but the running back that they took.
Yep.
And I think it's a huge endorsement by the Chiefs' standpoint on Damian Williams. That's just my opinion. I think that first of all, I'm going to be 100% honest. I wasn't 100% sure who this player was, so I had to look him up when he was getting picked.
Mm-hmm.
I heard the name I heard the name, but I never seen him play. And after seeing some clips and watching some things on YouTube and also on NFL.com after the pick, and they had some highlights, this is a very confident runner. More importantly, a very confident pass catcher.
There it is.
He had a ridiculous amount of pass catching going on. But I think the thing about this is, this to me was a pick that said, Damian, we appreciate what you did for us in the Super Bowl. Don't worry, but this guy's going to help. And I think that was my opinion on this pick.
Yep. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire has, to me, he solidified himself as the best receiving back in this class, and the Chiefs knew exactly what they wanted. They had their pick of Jonathan Taylor. They could have gotten Jacob Dobbin. Could have gotten who's the other running back that I was thinking? Swift.
Yeah.
But Edwards-Helaire is a great receiving threat, and to me, he's a great complement to what Damien Williams does well. Damien Williams is a solid runner. He's a bigger body dude. Great outside zone reads. Edwards-Helaire is great in space. He does a great job catching the ball. He's going to be a great third down back. I think it essentially puts this running back into a situation into kind of a running back by committee. But to me, either way, if you are a running back on the most dynamic offense we've seen in football in a long time, with the greatest gunslinger quarterback we've seen since Brett Favre, you're going to have a fantasy impact. And I expect Edwards-Helaire to be drafted in every draft this year.
Well, I think that's exactly why he was drafted, because what I was saying about Damien Williams was more, we're not going out and getting a guy to replace you. We're going out to get a guy to compliment you. But the more important compliment is he plays right into what Patrick Mahomes does. You know what I mean? And he plays right into those draw schemes and those crossing patterns with that Williams was having, or Shady was trying to do, and he wasn't able to do last year.
Yep.
I think that this pick 100% was there to bolster the target ratio of Patrick Mahomes when he drops back. That's why I think this pick made. I know I might have killed myself in my credibility by saying I wasn't too familiar with this guy, but I just wasn't. And then when I learned more about him, and I did, that's where I realized, like, this was a pick that Patrick Mahomes himself probably had a hand in, saying, I need the guy who caught the most balls last year. Get me him. And that's what they did.
I don't know how if you guys follow Patrick Mahomes on Twitter or not, but he, as soon as that pick was made, he gave one of those like smiling Shaq gif tweets. Like,
right.
I definitely think that he does bring some fantasy relevance. Again, going into redrafts, PPR, I definitely like the pick, but I was surprised, like how everybody else was, of the running back they actually took. So, I mean, I think that we can actually think that he'll make an impact on fantasy, but I just don't think immediately, to be honest with you guys. Being that, they have that loaded up, running back room. Like, we had the same high hopes for Darwin Thompson as well last season. And you see how that turned out.
I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a little bit better player than Darwin Thompson.
Yeah.
I think he's the real deal. You don't take a running back in the first round.
Just looking at the tape.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold yet. I need to see it. You know what I mean? I love the kid's tape, but there's a difference from college and going into, NFL. He's definitely in a great system. He's definitely in a great system. I don't think he's a system running back, but he just happens to be in a system offense to where they're going to excel. They're going to be very good, high explosive. Patty Mahomes killing it left and right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last thing I'll just say about this too, I think that the difference between the Darwin Thompson pick last year and the Edwards-Helaire pick this year is night and day. This guy is a guy that they can put out there on third downs and just see what he can do.
Yep.
And he's going to deliver. He's got solid hands, and that's what Patrick Mahomes is looking for.
So we got a YouTube comment here, which is a great point. This is the final year of Damien Williams' contract as well. So this could be a guy who you select, especially if you got dynasty leagues or any league where you can keep players. If they don't re-sign Damien Williams after this, and he has a complimentary role this year, and then Helaire takes over the backfield next year, could be something to look out for.
It definitely could be. And but I think that they want to see what they have. I think they want to see what they have across the board. They're defending Super Bowl champions, so they're going to get a little bit of leeway to do that too. So they have a nice schedule, at least a proposed schedule. So,
all right. So I think
you want to take a look at anything that you think might happen?
That's what I'm thinking. What are you guys seeing around? So there are some a lot of players who could be fantasy relevant still there. Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, 3 big name running backs still on the board, expected to go in the day 2. And then also Denzel Mims at wide receiver. Cole Kmet is expected to be the first tight end taken off the board. What are you guys looking for tomorrow or tonight?
I'm hoping and praying my Rams take one of those running backs. We have the 20th pick, so hopefully we actually get a chance to make a run for one of these guys because, again, I'm a huge, huge Rams fan, and I do believe Henderson could get the job done, but not to the point where I'm comfortable and have him week to week be the RB1 or RB2, with Malcolm Brown. So I hope they get one of these big top guys, these top dogs, and not trade out of the second round like they do. They have 2 second round picks, so hopefully we can keep both. You know what I mean? But I just hope we can get JK if out of all those. If we can get JK, I'm be happy with that.
Sean, what are you looking for?
Mm-hmm. The Patriots have 2. They traded out of first round. Yeah, they traded out of the first round, so they have 2 picks tonight. I think that the initial thing that people are going to be thinking of is a quarterback, and I don't think that's the way they're going to go. I think Jared Stidham's their guy. He's actually a pretty competent player, and being able to play with the first team for a full off season, I think is only going to help.
Yep.
I think that the 2 issues that are being overlooked right now is running back and wide receiver. I think a lot of people in Patriots Nation are talking about the defensive line and talking about the offensive line. Brady didn't really have a lot of pressure going on last year, and they brought a lot of guys back. I personally, this is just my opinion, I want to see a dynamically talented tight end. And I don't see one in this draft class. I think the Patriots are going to go very vanilla. You're going to see an offensive lineman and a defensive player, probably a tackle, taken in these 2 rounds here. And then we probably won't see a skill position player from the Patriots until round 3.
Yep. There are a couple teams picking in the second round who haven't picked yet. I'm really curious to see kind of what they do. The Colts at pick 33. No, pick 34. Sorry, Bengals got pick 33, which the Bengals could grab a weapon as well, but I think they go with a linebacker and offensive lineman, give Joe Burrow a little help at tackle. But I think the Colts could draft a weapon at 34. I think that they need somebody opposite of T.Y. Hilton. They need to give Phillip Rivers a little bit of help. I know they have Marlon Mack in the backfield. I think he's done a pretty good job in that role. I don't expect them to take a running back there. But I could see them taking a wide receiver to give T.Y. Hilton a little bit of help. The Steelers are a team that didn't pick in the first round. They traded their first round pick to Miami for Minkah Fitzpatrick, which worked out really well for them last year. But they have some offensive issues that, obviously their offense wasn't great last year. Big Ben is coming back. They could take a quarterback to, try to essentially Green Bay it and fill that role behind Big Ben. You could also justify taking a running back there. I know James Conner hasn't been great for that, been solid and a good story, but I think they could use some help in that running back room as well. So those are my 2 teams from a fantasy perspective that I'm keeping an eye on because I think.
So I'm just going to throw this out. You used to have the Killer Bees. What if they went after the Killer Stees? They drafted Cam Akers. Right? Just saying. They have Stees out there.
I like that pick. Cam Akers is a really, really explosive running back, and I think he'd be able to excel in that Steelers offense. We'll see if I don't know if when the Steelers pick in that second round or when Cam Akers is projected to go. That's something that I would have to look up. But I know he was great at Florida State in a down year for the ACC conference. He was really a bright spot there. So I would love to see what he could do in that black and yellow. As a Bengals fan, I hope he doesn't, but as a football fan, I think he could do some great things there.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
I just think that they need something. They need another receiver because Juju Smith-Schuster got killed last year to the point that he got majorly hurt. They need another receiver that's going to take some pressure away from their other targets. They need a tight end. They need offensive line help. I mean, the Steelers are a mess, and it's amazing that they pieced together the season that they did last year.
For sure. I mean, you guys ready for tonight?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir.
We'll definitely be back tomorrow to do the second and third round recap. I want to thank everybody that watched, and I want to thank you guys for coming on and doing an amazing show. Let's keep this ball rolling. Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ, my boy Cody, and Sean.
Peace out.
See you, boys.
See ya.